Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Why his name is included in the title of the movie? Because this man basically did everything. He funded this movie, he directed this movie, he wrote this movie. This is literally his movie. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant features Sergeant Bright Eyes and the Interpreter. So these two are part of a larger military force. Their purpose is to search for Taliban bases, weapons operations, and weapons manufacturing plants, and shut them down. Now, of course, as you saw in the trailers, this doesn't exactly go the best. Most of the team winds up dead, and you're left with the sergeant and the interpreter. The interpreter carries the sergeant across something like 100 miles, I believe it was, to the final army base, and voila, Sergeant Bright Eyes is saved. So he's back in the States, safe and sound, and he learns that the interpreter is trapped over in Afghanistan. No way out, and he's on the top 10 most Taliban wanted list. So now democracy and the government have failed him, and he has to go over there and rescue this man by himself. It takes a lot of setup to get us to the point that they showed us in the trailers. So yes, the movie that they showed in the trailers encompasses about a quarter of the actual runtime of the movie, which is 2 full hours. Most of the rest of this movie is dedicated to how they got to the point of having to trek across the land and the actual trek itself. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a very interesting concept, but it wasn't exactly the movie I was promised in the trailers. It seems to happen a lot. Of course, this doesn't make this a bad movie. It just makes it different than what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot more of a slower pace and more of a, I would say, survival army type film more than anything else. And for that, you really feel for these characters. You're watching the interpreter go through everything and how hard he's trying to save Sergeant Bright Eyes. And then afterwards, when the sergeant gets back to the States and everything, you feel for him because his life was just saved by this man. He wants to help him, but he just can't. So now you're witnessing this tragedy because the interpreter was left behind in Afghanistan to basically fend for himself. And that is the big point of this movie. This is a love letter to the people left behind in Afghanistan. This is a love letter to them, and this is a, hey, don't forget about these people. And that is what this movie is trying to be. So for that, I do have to give it some props. Of course, as for the actual movie portion of this, it does take a while for this movie to get going, focusing more on trekking across, surviving the hordes and hordes and hordes of the Taliban, and just trying to survive in this harsh environment. I will say I enjoyed the heck out of it, and you will too.